Hello, my friends. Been a while. Hope you're all doing all right. I'm going to try to do something today. I don't even know how to do it, which is to share something that I've been personally working on almost all of my life. It's a deep secret, and yet in some way it isn't this thing that I want to share. And so I'll just say what the thing is. And it's so big, it's so huge, this notion, which is not a notion, that it's almost impossible to describe it and to share it. And this is and in that the size of this notion, and the fact that after 60 years of study and practice and sharing with other magicians and other sages and other, if you will, learned humans who are all looking for the same thing and practicing and learning it, I see something this morning after the last year or so here in Ireland, which would be my third year here. Something has switched, changed, come together. And it's like this. You know what? You know what? There really is only one story. And that story is so huge, it gets told and retold and told and retold and translated and retranslated over and over and over and over and over again. I myself now, after decades, can say this with great confidence. And furthermore, I can say this, that this story that's told and retold over and over and over again is documentable starting 10,000 years ago. Like written documentable. 10,000 years for sure, written. And it's written, this story is written in cuneiform. It's written by the Sumerians. This has not Egypt, not China, not the Bible. And part of the part of the bigness of this thing is the fact that all these other versions, or I don't know what to call them, are all just variations and permutations of the same original story. You know what's very instructive and helpful in this gigantic thing? I mean, this thing that I'm sharing with you is so big and big in its size and scope that it takes in everything that you've ever known. And this isn't, I'm not, you know me, I'm not talking about some freaking conspiracy, some religious bullshit. I'm not doing any of that. It's true that there is one story that's being told over and over and over and over again. And it's true that there are endless variations on this story. And the fact that there are so many variations on it is part of what's confusing and difficult uh, to finally get a hold of this single idea that I'm trying to share, which is the fact that it's a story. There's one story, and it's totally written down, and it's written down in cuneiform. It's not written down in Hebrew, which it is later. It's not written down in hieroglyphics in Egypt, which it is, excuse me, later. Later. It's originally written down and passed along. This one story is passed along in Sumerian and in cuneiform and in libraries. I'm telling you true. There are libraries upon libraries upon libraries built by kings of Sumerian origin who are documented humans, and what happens is this story is so pervasive that it keeps, the libraries get wiped out. That's what happens. They get burned down, they get destroyed by war, always war, and what happens is that the king, certain ones, about every 1,000 years, you know, a guy comes along with an obsession and a massive interest, you know, in this story, and it keeps getting rewritten in cuneiform, and it changes in its translation, but it really doesn't. It does, yes, but the story itself stays the same, and the language that it's being told in stays the same. However, in the translation, in the retelling, after it gets wiped out, this is so important, it always gets wiped out. And what gets wiped out are these libraries. Who knew? Who knew? Do you know? There are libraries upon dozens, maybe hundreds, over this 10,000 year period, where the same knowledge is being written, stored in these clay tablets, no paper, clay tablets, and then it gets, and huge, 10,000, 20,000 tablets, known, there's no nothing, it's known now, finally. And then they get burned up, or the palace gets destroyed, and all the tablets get broken, and they're just shards and fragments of these tablets. And then somebody comes along and puts it back together again, and puts it back together again, and puts the story back together again. It's nuts. It's fucking nuts. It really is. So if you know, so you come. There are people now in the British Museum and other humans who are nuts like me about this, and there's enough accumulation over the 10,000 years of tablature for there to be. Here's the story. Now these dudes are not saying this totally; they're partially saying it. My realization today is, after all these years, you know, is in fact there is one story that's being told and retold and told and retold and told and retold. You want to? Here's a great example is the story of the flood. One story that is always the same story for thousands of years, is the same story told and retold and told and retold. There's the earth, there's the humans on the earth. They make a lot of noise, and the gods are just not happy, and so a flood is made by this way or this way or this way, and there's always that, and there's always a boat, and it's a big boat, and it survives the flood, and everybody else gets wiped out, and the boat is filled with humans that are allowed to survive, and animals and plants and seeds and books, tablets and knowledge, and the boat always lands on the top of this mountain, and they come out of the boat and they replant everything, and here we go again. This story ain't Noah, ain't the Bible. It's being told again in the Bible, and like that. So just think like that, and think that here's one story, and it's an example of the idea that there is a single story that's being told and retold and told and retold. And the flood story, for example, is just a part of the story that's being told and retold and told and retold. And there are hundreds of stories that are contained in the make up the one story that's getting told and retold and told. And this is part of the difficulty, is the fact that there are hundreds of these stories that are told and retold and told that make up the one story. So it take me a lifetime to put that together, because you could go down, and I did, for 20 years, I went down the flood story. Ask anybody of my crew, that was one of my major obsessions, is what's the story with the flood, okay? There's a whole other bunches of stories about Adam. There's a whole bunch of stories about Sodom and Gomorrah. There's a whole bunch of stories about Babylon. There's, on and on and on and on and on. There's a whole bunch of stories about the story. Do you understand? There's a whole bunch of stories that are passed on about the telling of the single story and what's in the single story. Like there are tons of now known cuneiform tablets and writings that keep getting told and retold, that are just lists of grass and grasses and plants and seeds, and lists of all the birds and all the animals, and lists of the astronomical skies, and endless lists, the lists which are in the Bible, about the begets. You understand? The begets are a list. It's a list of this person beget this and did this and this, and so it makes this, it's the story that's being told and retold over and over and over and over again. The begets, okay? Not the Bible. Yeah, sure, it's in the Bible, but there, no, it is way older than that, and it's just been translated and retranslated and translated and retranslated over and over and over again. So I don't even know why I'm sharing this anymore. Who cares? I care, and I know some people who really are obsessive like me and care about this, but for some reason, for me personally, coming to Ireland, what happened was I have I have a big library of sacred knowledge, and I have a large collection and anybody who knows me and is a part of my crew for all these years, the size of my personal collection, which is spread all over the country in the United States in different stashes in different places. I had to leave. I left all that behind, and it was very painful until now. And I realize now that I cleared out that in order to get to what I'm trying to share with you now. Yeah. So it's awesome, man. It is actually awesome. There is only one story, and it keeps getting told and retold and retold. Imagine this. Imagine the mass, like the sun, the mass, M-A-S-S, and then the gravitational pull, of a story. A story has such power and such immensity that the story sustains its existence and drives humans to learn it, write it down, share it, and keep it going. The same story over and over again. I've been going on for a long time. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you listening. Maybe we'll talk again soon along these same lines. Thanks for listening. Peace.